Do I look okay?
You look a bit frizzy. Is it humid there?
No, I just can't get a haircut, and I'm dying for a haircut.
When does that reopen?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I've considered shaving my head.
Oof, that's a jump.
I'm there though.
Do you think that it's a slippery slope? Because once you shave your head, how many people go back to a regular, longer length sort of salon or barber routine, right? It tends to be like that's then your direction for the next year or two. And I understand wanting to do like now. It's like, yeah, look, it's straggly. It looks oily. It's gross. I don't like touching it. People recoil when they see me.
No one said
all of those kind of messages that come through. Birds try and land in it. You know, when you go to the supermarket, some of the produce on the shelves wilts. I get it. But do you think that this is a 2-year commitment you're willing to make?
That's not a 2-year commitment. What are you talking about? It's a 3 to 4 month commitment.
So after 3 to 4 months, you're going to be like, okay, I'm sick of shaving my head. I'm growing it back. Or you think this is a one and done? You're going to shave once and that's it.
I've shaved my head a couple of times, and I've just grown up. I've just gone back to normal slowly.
Straight away. You're like, I've shaved once and that's it.
Well, I mean, it's not straight away in that it happens very gradually.
Yeah, no, I understand conceptually, but this is you're taking a pit stop on the long hair highway, and you're after you've had your nap and you shot a V, you're pulling right back out onto the road.
Yeah. I think that'd be the plan. Like, I think I'd probably go a number 2. But the problem with a shaved head with me, like, first of all, you got to have a good shaped head.
Yeah.
Which I'm not convinced that I do. And also the big factor, the elephant in the room,
the Pilkington
no pun
factor.
intended, is the nose. And the nose, if I shave my head down to a ball and I still have the pointy triangle nose, it's Mr. Squiggle. That's the definition of Mr. Squiggle.
Yeah. I think you'd look a little bit Pilkington. You'd look a little bit, I don't know, less joie de vivre. You know, less. You'd look a little bit like you'd given up. That's my concern. That's why I'm just making the case for enduring what you have.
Well, I feel like I look like I've given up when in fact, with my hair at the moment, when in fact I've done the opposite of given up. What's the opposite of given up?
Given in.
Given down. taking down.
You've taken it down.
I've taken it down.
You've been taking it down for months now, and you're ready to give it up.
I'm taking life down. Life is my bitch.
I'm bringing life down with me.
I'm taking it downtown.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm probably not going to shave it.
Okay.
Don't know why I brought it up.
Just concern, perhaps. You know, you wanted to check in with a friend and see what they thought. And I've been able to convince you very effectively in the space of what, at my current count, is 4 minutes and 37 seconds.
Well, I did. I just said I was thinking about it.
Okay.
It's the thing.
Pretty into it at the start.
I love the idea of it, and I'm a spontaneous guy, man. Like, you know this. I'm a spontaneous, I'm a passionate, I'm an impulsive little
Lover.
Fairy.
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing. And I like the idea of just going, fuck it, and just doing it. And that's what I do with my facial hair. That's what I do with, my dating life. I just say fuck it. And then I deal with the consequences later. Grocery shopping, exactly. All that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, keep us updated. Maybe every day, just give us a 2 to 4 minute Instagram update about what you're thinking about your hair. And everyone at home can play along and keep on top of things.
Well, you guys will be, and by you guys, I mean you and the other guy listening, will be the first to know, because, I'm talking about hair probably 80% of the time on this podcast, I would say. It should be good hair hair fort or something.
We can workshop it better. We can come up with something better than hair fort.
Let's try and come
But to be honest, we couldn't
up
come up with anything better than deep fort, so maybe not.
Let's try and come up with like a hair related.
You want a hair related podcast name?
Like, but there's got to be a play on deep fort, I guess.
Oh, a deep fort hair pun.
Maybe like deep do, because hair
deep doo doo.
I love deep doo doo.
Great, sorted.
Done. I haven't worn jeans in 2 months.
Welcome to Deep Thought, everyone. Let's get into it, right? This is a podcast. It's actually episode 167, if you can believe it. 2/3 of the way to the next century. And we talk about the world, and we talk about each other, and we talk about you. Mark? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. See if anyone see if it comes up. Sitting through the internet with me this week, Michael. Hey.
Pew pew. Doing the guns.
Okay.
Pew pew pew.
An audio podcast. And I'm Nick. My name's Nick. Hi. Hi, Nick.
Now, Nick, how are you going? I read a book on how to be
a better friend.
How to be a better friend for dummies.
Yeah.
And that was
Nick,
I didn't get past the
you?
first page, but that
How's
was
it going?
I'm still working on the natural.
It's more about the rhythm. Yeah, it's not the words so much; it's the rhythm. I'm doing well, thank you. It's our last day here in level 3 lockdown, which tomorrow becomes level 2, at least in every place that isn't Auckland, unfortunately. Which means we are back to eating in restaurants and cafes, and gyms are opening and schools are opening and that sort of thing. So it's it's been a fairly successful siege against the Delta variant over here, and unfortunately Auckland will be there for probably another couple of weeks in the more intense lockdown because there are still new cases coming there. But the rest of the country will keep returning to normal.
Well, good on you. I'd bloody kill to have a burrito in a gym right now. Tell you what.
Same time. I have seen photos that you've sent me from the gym. Dumbbell in one arm, burrito in the other, and you just kept smacking yourself in the face with the dumbbell as you tried to go for a bite and forgot which hand was which.
It's all about the rhythm.
It's about the rhythm. You got to have back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
And then the hard thing is when you got to switch arms so that you're equally balanced. That just throws it all off.
You get it.
Yeah, I feel for you guys. Poor Vic. Yeah. I really do. Victoria did it all right. They stuck by the national plan. They tried to eliminate. They suffered for 6 lockdowns now, and then it gets taken away from you.
And then they were like, "All right, we're kind of giving up on the whole." We're in week 6 of a snap lockdown.
Yeah,
at the moment.
Yeah,
but they've kind of given up on the whole. It's just vaccinations now. I moved my vaccination appointment, my second AZ shot, up a couple of weeks, so I'll be fully vaxxed next Friday. Oh yeah, nice.
What was the thought behind that? Just because you'd already waited a couple of months.
They made a I can't remember. I think it was the state government. They were like, you can, if you've had 1 shot of AstraZeneca, you can move it to now a 6-week window. And I'm already at 8
2 months or
weeks.
Something, sure, yeah.
So the next available appointment was next week. So I was just like, fuck it, I'll do it. I'd rather just see these vaccination numbers go up, even though I'm just like one person. But also, like, I check the exposure list sites every day. I've got like a tweet alert thing for this tweet bot thing that does this exposure thing, and I just feel like it's a numbers game at the moment. Like you're just bound to get exposed to this thing. I feel like at this rate. I mean, we've got 250 cases a day at the moment. Yeah, some of the places that I go to, every 2 days, once every 2 days, they're popping up, once a week. So I thought, fuck it, I'll just get, because it takes two weeks or so to get for that second jab to really take effect.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just want to get it over and done with. I'm just getting impatient, so that's why.
Yeah. Well, I think that's reasonable. I mean, 2 months is surely a long time for it to have brewed into the body and like done its business and prepped for the second jab to have that stronger response. So I'm no scientist, but at the end of the day, what's the difference between 9 weeks and 12 weeks? As a numbers game, as a percentage game, how much more protected are you going to be? As you say, if you're walking around in the community and likely to encounter someone who had it, surely getting that second dose earlier is more protection than the added 5% you might have got by waiting a week later or 2 weeks later.
Yeah, the booster shots are going to come up soon, and I don't know. I just feel like we'll look back on all this like Pfizer versus AstraZeneca bullshit that's going on, and there's a lot of bullshit going on with people feeling like there's like an elite kind of vaccine or there's a premium vaccine and AstraZeneca's not that, which is kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think I saw something the other day that said that the effectiveness, the efficacy of AstraZeneca actually kind of catches up to Pfizer over the time, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to get boosted with Moderna or whatever. We'll look back on this as all just silly bullshit. I think all this. I got the AstraZeneca.
Well, I can't remember if I said this in a podcast previously, but I posted I got my first jab picture on my Facebook, and I just Googled within Facebook, the GIF search thing. I just found a jab, like a syringe thing, and a friendly I got the jab thing, and I I searched Pfizer, and I got a Pfizer thing and stuck it on there. And I got a message from someone who responded, who was like, "Oh, you're gonna make a lot of people upset, man." I was like, "Really? Why?" I was just like, I flexing in the mirror and posted that I got the jab. How's that gonna put anyone?
Mate, those guns are gonna put those guns away, mate. There's kids around.
that might have been the undertone there. But he was like, "Oh, there's a lot of consternation in Australia because people have been waiting for Pfizer, and people are going to think you're bragging that you got Pfizer versus the AstraZeneca or anything like that." I was like, I didn't realize that was even a timbre of the Australian discussion. This one is more elite than the other one. But I think you're right. Like, other people have told me about how that is a dynamic over there, and I would have taken whatever vax they had here. It's just this was what we have, But I think you're totally right that this discussion, when ultimately they're both within a percentage point here or there, the same efficacy and the same safety, it's all going to be fairly meaningless.
Yeah, I can't wait. Do you want to when do you reckon will be the world will be back to normal? If you make a prediction right now. I mean,
when we sincerely go a couple of weeks without even thinking about COVID.
Yeah.
2027.
What? That's 6 years away, Nick. I had to do some quick math there. Really?
I feel okay, so let's think about the rollouts here. We've got another good year globally before vaccination can really cover all the areas, right?
Everywhere.
In that time, there's more variants and that kind of thing happening. There might be more lockdowns to stop certain things. America's just running amok in its insanity, right? They've really slowed down when it came to vaccination rates and all that kind of thing. I saw a graph just this week saying that in terms of a per 100 people of population, Australia and New Zealand, their peak rates of vaccination per 100 people of population is almost double that of what the US has been able to achieve. And they had such a head start on the supply of vaccines, but they just never got in as many arms and have really struggled now to overcome that political issue where it's I'm not getting vaxxed.
Yeah,
But
you could predict that because Americans more of them are libertarians. They hate the idea of more Americans hate the idea of government.
yeah, yeah.
Or
There's
at least
well,
government,
it's so like
be involving themselves in your life.
yeah, it's so politicized over there as well, even with the mask wearing, like,
Yeah.
so we could talk about that forever. But I just think it is worth reflecting on the successes that Australia and New Zealand, despite the slow starts, now have in terms of the speed with which they're putting it in arms. Anyway, with all that said, I feel like you're at least a year away from a significant proportion of the world being vaxxed. You're probably then talking about boosters, as you say, to deal with the variants that come up. You've got at least a couple of years worth of, like, this is your annual flu jab, or this is your 3-monthly or 6-monthly booster, and getting that to a point where there's enough international supply so that it's not giving a third shot to some places when the first shot hasn't arrived in Africa or whatever. And then you've got this kind of cautious lull for a couple of years. Like, if it's sort of vaguely under control and maybe you get little pockets of things appearing, but it sort of, we're working out what the new normal looks like, where it's most of the population is protected, but now you might have to shut a school or a city for a week or two, but everyone sort of knows how to deal with it. And we remember last winter when that happened. It just becomes a little bit more of a seasonal flu. And then, like, give it a couple of years after that for the next climate catastrophe or terrorist attack or significant international war or scandal or something to drag attention away. And then you can leave. Yeah. And then you're probably in a place where it's like 2026, 2027, where you like don't have to think about it anymore.
Fuck me, dude. We'll be nearing our 40s then.
Yeah.
Before fuck. And yeah, like the fucking variants, like it's hard to discern what is just media kind of trying to drum up hype, but you hear these reports of like new variants being discovered and it's even more deadly than what we've got now, and it's like, yeah, my impulse and is the same now as it was before COVID took over everyone's lives, which was, it's just, I think I even said it on this podcast.
Yeah.
There's just the fucking media trying to make a story out of nothing, which I still kind of feel, but then it makes me think, I had that thought last time and I was so wrong.
Yeah.
That maybe, I don't, what, like COVID these days, my whole view of the world has completely changed over the last 18 months. And it's connected, it is directly related to COVID, but it's not just about
COVID.
It's not just about COVID. I used to think that everything would kind of work out, or, things people have control, or at least the governments have control over certain things, because we never had anything in our lives before that, really, that we lived through, that made us think otherwise. Like our parents, maybe the boomers didn't really have that either, but at least they had their parents lived through the war.
Yeah.
Lived through both wars and the Depression, maybe. And so it was kind of still
boomers had that sort
there.
of hippie era, right? Like they had the Vietnam War and depending on where you came up, you had the AIDS crisis and that kind of thing. But you're right,
Sure.
It wasn't these huge global events as much, right?
Yeah. And I just feel like everything now is so fragile, whereas before I thought everything was in place and would work out. And I had quite a optimistic view of the world. And I'm not saying I'm a pessimist now, but I definitely am not an optimist with regards to, it's made me take way more seriously, climate change and global warming, just because bad things can happen in the world, and they have happened.
Well, and you can't trust that the people, quote unquote, in power at the top are going to do like the obvious or the best or the soonest or the, the smartest thing, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's like somewhat of a privileged position to even be in at 30 years old, where you're just like, oh, the world's kind of
32.
bad. Well, okay, thanks, mate. But I was fucking 30-ish when COVID happened. All right.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for the fact check.
I just thought you were trying to sneak under the radar. You were just trying to delete a couple of years off the old odometer there. Well, as a 29-year-old, I have just learned that the world is not what I thought.
Be a good way to do it. Just slip it in on a really serious point where the point's too serious to interrupt. You're like, oh. Yeah. But I don't know. Has it affected you in a similar way, or did you always kind of know that somehow?
It does make me more depressed about climate change. I mean, that's the big catastrophe that's looming, right? Like, I don't know what things are like in Australia at the moment. Obviously, there were those huge bushfires very recently, which did significant amount of devastation. But there have been floods all over New Zealand and crazy storms. You look at America right now, Philadelphia just flooded. The tornadoes, Ida just ripped through a whole bunch of places. Yep. Like, it is
fires
happening right now. And the tripping over our own dicks factor of the COVID response and the stupidity in terms of people's reluctance to do a thing that is mildly inconvenient for themselves for the greater communal good does really sour my optimism towards ever getting to a point where people are going to proactively fix the climate change problem. It's just, it is disheartening.
Well, that's the other thing that I think about a lot with COVID is that if you're writing this as a movie, so say COVID never actually existed, but this is a movie, you're writing a script where a virus kind of took over the world. One thing that wouldn't occur to me, and maybe it would occur to you because you're a good writer, but like the denial of it still baffles me. And you said before that like the people not wanting to suffer the mild inconvenience of it, but that's not how they look at it in terms of getting the vaccine. They either don't believe that COVID exists, or they believe that vaccines will do more harm than good, and that this is part of some larger plan to have the governments control them. So I don't think they're feeling inconvenienced by
the inconvenience thing. I think was referring more to like the mask mandates and that kind of stuff than the vaccination, like mild stuff like that, where it's like, oh, can you just, would you mind putting a small piece of fabric in front of your face when you go out into a communal area? That side of it, less than the vaccine side. But I think my parents, because I was chatting to them over the weekend, they also had they were talking about the past 18 months and their revelation that, as they put it, the world is way dumber than they thought it was. Just the average response, I suppose, nation to nation, but also just within society, the people who are so misinformed as to the scientific method, as to who to trust in terms of media, in terms of all of these factors, the takeaway has been like, oh God, people are a lot just less educated than you really hope.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was speaking to a friend. I was playing poker with a friend who works as an engineer, and he works closely with a lot of like construction guys, and not to, paint everyone with a broad brush here, but he was saying that there is a significant number of this particular men in this particular industry who are the ones kind of propagating this shit in terms of vaccine conspiracies, COVID conspiracies, completely non-compliant with lockdowns,
Yeah.
masks, all that shit. And he reckons it's because, and this, I don't know, this is going to sound, this is not me saying this, but I think
it's hearsay, yeah.
He reckons these are guys that aren't particularly bright, and they've been told that they've never been the smart guys in the room, like in high school or in school. They didn't go to university, and now they feel like they're like quite cocky. They've got a bit of money, and they feel that this is a way for them to like gain their control back in terms of.
I mean, we've talked about the conspiracy mindset in podcast past as well, and one of those aspects which you just touched on was the idea of feeling like you're in an elite, right? Like in a secret group that knows a truth that others don't, feeling better than other people. And the appeal is like being on the in and knowing something others don't. And I think that's totally valid. I think what you said, you know, whether or not it's about the money or the labor or the position or you know, it could be applicable to any of those contexts. But the idea of like, I know something that you don't, and I'm smarter because I've found this out and I've figured it out. And I'm, you know, with a group of like-minded individuals who know this as well. It is a very alluring mindset. And it's also why you see people in their deathbeds, like literally in hospital, lying there, refusing to go on ventilators, refusing to accept that they even have COVID, because it requires a complete deconstruction of identity. Like a complete admission that you that you weren't smart, that you didn't... know what you were talking about, and the ego death of that choice is far worse, you know, in their perception than the actual death they're about to suffer. It is harder for them to admit they were wrong than it is to get the help they need to live, you know.
It's completely tribal. Like it's being part of a tribe and wanting to stick to your beliefs rather than, you know, give up your beliefs. It's why it's so hard to convince religious people. You know, it's essentially the same thing. You know, conspiracy theorists essentially act in the same way that religions do.
Yeah, it's access to a fount of knowledge that guides the way you make your choices and your morality, right? Even if we don't call the decisions about vaccines and stuff morality, it's influencing your behaviors in society, right?
Yeah, and it only works to reinforce. I mean, it's there's martyrdom as well. I mean, the more they're persecuted, the more they're called. This is why calling vaccine anti-vaxxers stupid doesn't work, because they become more entrenched in their own beliefs, in the same way that, you know, any religious figure or historical religious figure in the past that was persecuted for their beliefs only works to entrench them and their followers even further in their beliefs. It doesn't work. The only thing that works is if anything works, is trying to talk reasonably, sensibly, and actually listening to what they have to say, because and taking and lending a compassionate ear, even though it's difficult. But some of this stuff, from their perspective, if you believe all this bullshit, if you believe that the government has this grand idea to control you and put microchips in your arms and to control the population that way, there are things out there that does make it seem like that. If you are already looking at the world through that lens, you can find that evidence. So it's not that it is dumb in a way, but I don't think it means that people are necessarily dumb. They've just been completely misled, and they've been deluded, like, you know, people that followed L. Ron Hubbard or the Jonestown massacre guy.
I mean, we know the most effective way to get someone who's an anti-vaxxer to take the vax is an in-group referral, someone who they looked up to, someone who was an authoritative figure within that circle, who then comes out and says, I got it and here's why. It's only then when they have the cover of another person in that group stepping out and saying, actually, I did get it, that it allows them the leeway to also change their views on it. So it's quite a difficult thing for outsiders to really achieve. This is a tangent, but do you know where the original concerns about vaccinations and autism came from?
Bondi Beach.
Bondi Beach?
Isn't it Bondi? No, sorry, not Bondi Beach. Ah, fuck.
What I'm talking about was not a setup for a joke. It was the actual, where did this start? The actual cause of this concern. It was an article in The Lancet, a quite esteemed publication. I came across this only recently, but I found it kind of amazing. So there's a doctor called Andrew Wakefield who published a study in the Lancet Medical Journal in February 1998, proposing a link between the vaccine and autism. Later, the Lancet retracted this claim and apologized. So the former surgeon, Andrew Wakefield, whose campaign linking the vaccine for mumps and measles and rubella to autism was paid more than £400,000 by lawyers trying to prove the vaccine was unsafe. And the children in the study used as evidence against the vaccine were also claimants in the lawsuit. So these kids had basically cited a study as evidence that the autism had been caused by a vaccine, and the study was funded by the lawyers representing the kids. So it was a complete hatchet job, effectively, to try and boost their own legal success. But this campaign, led by Wakefield, caused immunization rates in the UK to slump from 92% to 78.9%. So he almost single-handedly created this myth and started this whole international concern off the back of just some dodgy lawyer stuff. So this came out in 2006 by the looks of it. But I had never heard really this origin story of where it all began, which was just just dodgy lawyers pumping money in to try and prove a point and win a case.
Brilliant. I mean, that's good marketing. And they were successful.
Well, that's the thing. Like now, 20 years later, what's the cost of that initial lie, right? Billions of dollars, millions of lives, right?
I wonder if there were how many anti-vaxxers there were in like the 20s and stuff after the flu, when they first got the flu vaccine or smallpox and whatever. Do you reckon?
Yeah. I mean, there was probably some skepticism, but also I think the opposite may have been true. And this is half hazy recollection and half possibly just complete invention. But I have a sense that because people were living through the visible effects of it, and they saw what mumps did to people or measles did to people, what polio did to people. They knew people that have it. They knew the lives they led and the visible evidence of it taking friends, family, and stuff around them. I think there was a lot of enthusiasm for a vaccine because it was like, well, I don't want to get that. Give me the jab. And now, unfortunately, we've lived through an era in which no one has suffered these weird and horrible diseases until we got to a point where everyone didn't believe it was even really a risk and we had stopped taking it again.
But aren't people seeing their friends and I mean, I still don't know anyone that's gotten COVID, but aren't people seeing, the effects of COVID on their friends and family enough to take the vaccine? Or is it just not strong enough?
I don't know. I guess it's the who do you trust thing, right? The irony of it all is that the people who are not willing to take the vaccination, who are not believing that it's a real thing, they're the ones who are getting it and dying. There's been a parade of right-wing talk show and radio hosts in the US just dying, just one after the other these past couple of weeks. Like 3 weeks ago saying, I refuse to, take the jab. I'm not going to be subjugated by the, new government Reich, and then dying in hospital. There's been dozens of them.
There's a term that's been used here a bit lately, which is that COVID will become the pandemic of the unvaccinated. And it was an interesting term for me to hear. And because it didn't occur to me that's what it would become. The pandemic would exist amongst people who didn't want to take the vaccine. That to me is, it's great irony, but it's also it's kind of sad. Like they refuse, and here's the other thing. Like I don't feel morally comfortable saying that everyone needs to get the vaccine. I think it should be an individual choice. But the fact of the matter is that you're not going to be able to do anything, at least not in Australia. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to get on a plane. You're not going to basically go to a pub. You're not going to go to the zoo. You're not going to go to the
concerts, bars.
Concerts. Yeah. And so the world around you will change and you won't have access to it anymore.
Yeah.
Make what you will of it. What's your feeling on mandating vaccines?
Well, it's interesting because, in a way, is this not a huge Darwinism study, right? Like it is.
Well, it totally is.
It is
exactly.
Do you save yourself or not kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the sympathy needs to lie with those who, for medical reasons, cannot be vaccinated, who have diseases or illnesses, who can't take the vaccine, who are too young. We're seeing babies. There was a baby here that had COVID in our lockdown. Sympathy needs to really...
I bet I refused to wear a mask when I went to the shops.
Yeah, it was wearing a placard as well. The sympathy needs to lie with them because it is the behavior of those who could but refuse to, who are being selfish and forcing those who are vulnerable into the same hell that they are in, right? Like where if the 98% of people who could be vaccinated were vaccinated, those who couldn't could return to a normal life, right? There wouldn't be rampant community outbreaks. You could sort of get back to what it was. Unfortunately, there is going to be this small but not insignificant minority of people who are validly incapable of having that protection, whose lives are now, completely up in the air indefinitely because society is not yet fixed for them. And it's the consideration for that bracket of people that draws me closer to a vaccine mandate, because if you're talking about the freedoms of people to live a fair and safe life, then I think you need to weigh up those who cannot safely take a vaccine and thus are stuck in their houses for eternity against those who refuse to do it for anti-vax grounds or government overreach grounds, but who can still go about and live their lives. And I think there is something to be said for a social ostracization of those who refuse to do it through the mechanism of, well, you can't get in on a plane, you can't travel, you need a passport, you can't get into the supermarket without wearing a mask, you can't go to the sports group without, a vaccine, to get people over that line so that those who cannot can return to a normal life.
So they basically have society turning their back on them.
Yeah, you got to shun it, and Yeah, it's thinking about like I said, it's thinking about the people who can't return to normal without it that gets me closest to saying, well, everyone just has to have it. But I think I'm with you that I think ultimately there is a line where the government shouldn't be able to mandate medical choices to people. Then you do cross into lines where it's like abortion's illegal. Well, I believe that should be your choice. So you should allow people to make those choices for yourself. In that same vein, I think it's hypocritical to not say, well, the vaccination should be your choice. It's just, you've just got to weigh up that social cost, right? Is there anything the government mandates that you do medically right now?
Well, what you said just then made me think that they mandate that you can't put certain things into your body. So I guess that's on the other side of that.
And that is for social benefit, right? Theoretically, you can't put meth in your body because you might go and stab someone or rob a bank and, or drive impaired, or, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or it's a burden to the health system, I guess, as well.
Yep. I think that's still a negative, though. That's still you can't put this in rather than you must put this in, right?
Yeah, that is different. You must, I mean,
some would argue fluoride.
You must wear a seatbelt.
Yep, or fluoride in the drinking supply. Seatbelt is kind of like, well, you don't have to drive. If you don't want to wear a seatbelt, you don't have to get in a car. Fluoride in the water, that's the government mandating that you take a chemical for your own benefit.
What's fluoride? Is that for your teeth?
Yeah, teeth.
Huh.
But there are people who have issues with fluoride in the water. There's no fluoride over here because New Zealand water is so special that we can't put stuff in it to keep your teeth healthy. It annoys me a bit. But, yeah. Yeah,
we drink... I think we can buy the water that trickles down from New Zealand glaciers.
Yeah.
We pay for $5 a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on the vaccine mandate? Do you feel like it's ever something that deserves to be considered?
I think I feel morally uncomfortable with doing that, but I do think that the kind of the society kind of limiting the access of people who choose not to be vaccinated, I think is inappropriate. It's a very tricky thing to regulate, and it's a very tricky question. But it's just about finding the balance.
The other thing as well is that, one of those freedoms that people are going to be really looking to is international travel, right? And that brings you into the realm of, 100, how many countries are there? 200 countries? 220 countries?
300? This was in Trivial Pursuit the other day, so I should know. I think it's 3. Oh, let's both guess.
Oh, I just Googled it. I've just Googled. I said it was like 220. That was my guess.
Okay. I'm guessing 180.
Okay. Oh, you're close. 195.
Yes. That was from Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah, good job. That brings you into the realm of 195 different governments, right? Each of whom might have different mandates as to what is necessary to enter their country. Some of which will be vaccine passport related. Like if you want to come to X, you need to have proof of your jab. Each of those can have countries will have different policies and different decisions as to what's expected of their society. So if you want to get out there into the world, there's every chance that you're going to have to deal with that requirement or be limited to the subset of countries that don't require vaccination, all of which seem more likely to be rife with disease and economic problems or whatever.
I'm inclined to say that the types of people that don't want the vaccine are also the types of people that probably won't want to travel. But I
Fair.
think that there is a significant amount of people that are anti-vaxxers, or at least anti-COVID in some way. So I think there's more
COVID
people
skeptic, you mean?
than anti-vaxxers. The term anti-vaxxer before COVID, you used to be able to kind of laugh off a little bit. You'd hear it in the news. You'd hear that there'd be like mums that didn't want their child vaccinated. That's when it came up before. And now I think it has permeated to a larger, percentage of the population.
Yeah. To take one step back here, we talked previously about how your realization over the past 18 months was the world is not as capable, or humanity is not as capable of self-preservation as we thought, that governments were not as good at managing crises, and that the humans involved were just as likely to make dumb, unscientific mistakes as they were act competently. Where does this position you? This is a big picture question now. Where do you now sit on the idea of an international unified government? Like let's jump 200 years to the future, the sci-fi future. There are not nation states anymore. There is one humanity led by the government for all, the United Nations of all, or something like that. Where do you sit now on the concept of, I suppose, democratic competence, governance and governments? What's the likelihood that you think a single international unified body would be able to handle this better than a hodgepodge of 195 different countries?
Well, I think ideally that makes a lot of sense, like having a global government. But I think the further that humanity goes on, progresses, or maybe not even progresses, just goes on, will become more and more homogenized in terms of culture, skin color, whatever. And I think that could become more of a viable option for us. And if we discover that there's life elsewhere, or we get visited by another civilization, then I think the idea of a global government would make a lot more sense. But at the moment, the world is so, like, I have always thought about this, that I find it strange that, sometimes if I go for a hike, that there's like fencing there and that I can't climb over, or barbed wire fencing and stuff. I'm like, this is the fucking world. Like, I should be able to go wherever I want, Obviously, that's silly in practical terms, but in idealistic terms, it makes sense. Everyone should be allowed to go wherever they want. It's planet Earth. No one really owns stuff. The concept of owning stuff isn't real, But as we're seeing now with Afghanistan, there are so many parts of the world that just fundamentally disagree, and they're so different, and they might as well be other planets. So I think we're so long off this homogeneity that I think will be inevitable to a certain degree. But I think we need like a external global threat to really get us together. Now, Dick Cheney and George Bush, if you're listening, don't get any ideas, okay? No. Don't try and, create a comet to draw. We saw what you did with the last time with 9/11, okay? But I think we kind of do need an external threat. I mean, you could argue that that's global warming, but people don't agree on global warming. We need a comet in the sky. We need a meteor. I don't know what the difference is between a comet and a meteor. We need a ball of fire in the sky coming towards us for us all to kind of become Earthlings rather than Australians, New Zealanders, Afghanis, whatever.
I think as a big picture State of the Union, I think you're totally right. But in terms of this specific issue, do you think that one unified government would have been able to handle COVID? Do you think, like, we've known certain countries with a certain unified democracies, like New Zealand has benefited, I think, from one person, one government being at the top and controlling the entire country and its rollout and its border policies and its immunization plan and all that kind of thing, whereas places like the US and Australia, who've had different democracies, have struggled. Do you think that in a conceptual realm where 2019 happens but there is one government, do you think globally that we would be better off, or would it be the same?
Okay, so the problem is that we were working COVID out as we went along. So that's part of the reason why why everyone doesn't agree on everything. If we got all the scientists together, the top scientists from all over the world together to exactly work out, this is what will stop infection spreading, this is how we stop hospitalization, blah, 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 I think, yeah, that could work. But we're still kind of I feel like we're still in the working it out phase.
Do you think, though, that it would have been a stronger... Would it have tamped down some of the skepticism having one organization across it all? Or do you think that there is a fundamental scale problem here where the human mind... The physiology of the human species is such that our capacity to appreciate the size of our surroundings is still tribal, is still 200 people, it's still our local circumstances, and that even if we all ultimately said, voted in the international election and there was one leader of the world, that when Wuhan gets this weird flu, Michael in Melbourne, thousands of kilometers away, still has a degree of difficulty accepting the reality of that issue.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, look at WHO. I guess that's kind of the closest thing we've got, and the trust has been eroded. Like, no one trusts WHO.
Well, yeah, coming off the back of the Chinese cover-up feels like a very aggressive statement of it, but their unwillingness to cooperate with the international investigations and reveal what was going on as early as it happened certainly did make it difficult for that trust to be built.
Yeah, but I think it's a nice. What do you think?
I feel like, look, we're in alt history now. I feel like if you have one international oversight, I feel like there has to be some benefits to that process, because in terms of resources, as you say, it's all going through one system. In terms of work and coordination and scientific research, it's all coming through one system. And then you have a better chance of being aware of and up to date on the situation in a way that hopefully prepares the rest of the world and earns a degree of empathy between, us in the Australia state and New Zealand state for our Chinese brethren, our friends, the Chinese, the the members of the human race just around, on the other side of the globe that are suffering, and potentially makes us more willing to be proactive or communal or protective of others, such as we can do our best to stop COVID earlier and more effectively. Like I feel like in this conceptual world, there is an innate sense of a greater unity, is I guess what I'm getting at. And perhaps with that sense of greater global unity, where you're all just humans, there might be a little bit more social willingness to do the things necessary to stop COVID. That's a better summary of what I was getting at.
No, I feel you. I think it's, yeah. Well, I don't know. Did we save the world?
I think every week we save the world, Michael.
And we only record once a fortnight, so how does that work?
Yeah. So my show got picked up.
Yeah. Yes, it did. That's fucking amazing.
It is very, very crazy. But Good Grief is getting a second season. And it's happening with AMC in America. AMC networks will be Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, Halt and Catch Fire is a good one. A lot of good AMC networks products.
It's the big boys, Nick.
Yeah,
and girls.
So
big girls
our show first season is going to be streaming on Sundance Now, which is their streaming service. Our first season will be airing on IFC, which is again one of the sister channels of AMC networks, and our second season is being funded by them outright. So they've picked up a second season and will be writing that this year and shooting it next year and hopefully out next year as well.
Hell yeah, dude! First, two questions.
Yeah.
Can you give the Deepfoot faithful a little tease on what's where you're gonna go, where you're gonna just maybe even a spoiler, just throw in a spoiler. And second question, which is a bit more serious, did this season get picked up? Did the second season get picked up because of what, the critical reception or the numbers? Like what's the mechanics? What's the kind of corporate mechanics behind this?
I'll answer your second question first. It got picked up because they were already interested in the first season. They'd licensed the first season to air. And basically our producers said, hey, do you want to make more of it? And they said, yeah, we're interested in that. So it came about because they already liked the first season that we made, as far as I understand it, which is very flattering and cool to think that translates to, quite a different comedic, like the American comedy style is not exactly identical to the New Zealand or Australian comedy style. So it's cool that there was something there that they saw that translated.
Yeah, you've definitely done something right there. You've kept your style in terms of humor, I guess, but there's something, I guess that proves that there's something universal there that everyone can enjoy, which I guess is, what you want. Or
it could be the exact opposite. It could be something different. Like if the market is saturated with, a whole lot of one thing, then maybe what appeals to a certain viewer or a certain audience is something that is a different flavor or a different speed or a different tone. So it could actually be that there's enough commonalities that a joke's still a joke, but also that part of the appeal is the fact that it is a completely different look and feel than most of the other stuff airing. So
well, either way, you take it.
Teasers for next year. Well, we're still we haven't even really started writing. We're still overviewing. I would say I can tell you a couple of factual things. Longer episodes, so we're going to be at a full half hour. So they're
with ads. Do people factor in ads now?
Yeah, so it would be like a TV half hour, like a 25-minute sort of length, not a 15 to 20. So more space for the side characters to breathe.
Why do they still factor in the ads if there's no real ads, if it's just going to be on streaming services?
Well, not everywhere. So here in New Zealand, it'll probably be on TV, and IFC is a TV network over there, so that'll wear with ads, I assume, as well. So, I
forget that people watch free-to-air TV.
Yeah. And in terms of plot stuff,
something juicy, just make something up. They'll take anything.
I'll just say 3 words.
Okay.
Unexpected. Alien invasion.
Okay, I think I know what that means. Okay. And I love it. I love it. You know, my only criticism was there weren't enough aliens.
Yeah.
In the first season.
And we got that from a lot of places, actually. So we're trying to skate to where the puck needs to be, and
more aliens,
and right a few wrongs, I think.
I fantasize about being in one of those like testing rooms, when they show you like a movie and they test, and focus it's like groups. In the 2-air glass. Focus groups. Fuck, I would love to do that. I like to think that I would like fuck with them, but it's not. That's not fair.
I think that the likelihood of you being in a focus group is possibly not that high. So, why? Just in terms of you're a white man, they're probably not looking for your perspective on the.
Why? No, that's not right.
Why is that?
Everyone wants. Well, this is fundamentally wrong. I am a white man. Therefore, they want my perspective.
I think there's
Nick,
a lot.
I have a podcast. That's true.
Why do you think they would bring you in for a podcast perspective?
Everyone wants to hear what I have to say all the time.
Yeah,
all of the time.
That's fair. But yeah, that's the exciting news. More Good Grief is coming, and thank you to anyone who has checked out the first season, because it helps us keep making more.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you've enjoyed this, plenty of great episodes out there for you. Okay. Plenty of great episodes out there for you to also enjoy. You can find them at deepfort.podbean.com. You know where to go. Or you can just scroll down on the podcast player feed of your choice. There are links and articles and photos and news on the Facebook page. There's twitter.com if you want some updates when an episode goes live. There's Instagram if you want photos or little bonus clips from episodes we couldn't fit in the edit. There's SoundCloud if you want to look at our Christmas carols from past years or enjoy a jingle again. And you can always send us a question or a comment to deepfort@gmail.com, and we'll read it in our mailbag segment, which is quite popular with the ladies. And thank you very much to Michael for returning after forcing me to pad that out.
I think you did a good job.
Thank you.
I like it when you say "for the ladies." Never sounds right. My urine is like radioactive green right now. I've been taking these multivitamins. You ever taken a multivitamin, my man?
Well, can we even talk about this on air? I've taken a multivitamin before.
Well, it's something. I don't even know if they work, but I feel good. I've been not drinking for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I feel like $1 million. I have so much energy right now at the moment that I thought, you know what, fuck it, throw a multivitamin in there as well while I'm on this health kick, and no side effects so far. So, and it's funny that
your pee is like the traffic light system, where yellow is like caution. Red is, okay, there's something seriously wrong. And you're in green right now, which is actually full steam ahead.
Well, that's how it works though, because if there's so much vitamins. Look, I'm not a scientist,
but there's so much vitamins.
There's so much vitamins in these fucking hell, in these tablets, and they're big tablets as well, and they smell disgusting.
It's like eating a foot-long sub.
It is like a foot-long sub. They're shaped like a mini foot-long sub. Mini foot-long sub. That's something. Mini foot-long sub. And you get too much vitamins. Fuck it. In these things that
why do you keep saying too much vitamins? Can you please say too many vitamins? It's just I'm starting to worry that you don't know that it is too many vitamins.
I don't know. Too many doesn't sound right because it's a one tablet, but there's many vitamins in the tablet, so there's too much.
You just said vitamins. There's many vitamins in the tablet. You just proved my point by trying to prove your point.
But you're taking one tablet, so you would say I'm taking too much of this tablet, but there's too many vitamins or too much. Yeah, okay, I see your point. Anyway,
I'm very glad that your pee is green.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's not, and then that tells me that I needed the vitamins, but usually I don't need any of them.
No one has ever said make sure your pee's green. That's how you know you're healthy. That's just they're putting too much vitamins in the pill, and there's excess coming out in your urine.
Yeah, but that's how it works. It's like this is not even like a natural green. This is like lemon lime Gatorade. It's like
it's like cooler cordial.
Yeah, it doesn't. It feels very strange. It feels like you're peeing out some strange? Sort of. When you look down at your urine,
okay,
and you pee that kind of
physically.
color,
yeah,
your instinct is to be like, holy shit, I'm not of this world.
Yeah, well, you're treating it in the same way, like you want to have like a completely full pantry, right? Like this is you making sure your body has everything it could possibly need, such that you have excess that it's like you're throwing just straight out the bin. This is you like filling up the swimming pool to the brim, so the moment you stick a toe in, there's just spilling all over the pavement.
Correct. That's exactly it.
Well, good luck to you. I hope your kidneys survive.
Yeah, me too.
I wish I had more egg news. Didn't get much feedback for my egg tip last week.
It's because everyone knew it already.
No, I don't think so.
You're
I think
literally
just
the last
blown
person
away.
to know.
I think they're just still recovering. Michael.
Okay.
Shall we wrap this up with some weird news? But not sad news, just happy weird news.
Weird sad news?
Nope, not weird sad news, just regular good old weird news. Pick me up. Like, oh, isn't that weird?
Is it going to be sad?
It won't be sad.
Okay.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
In the news today from the Strange and Weird Fact File.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs.
Deputies say the suspect told them he's been performing sex acts on animals since the 1970s.
Tonight I told about my close encounter with the Yeti.
A sticky situation at an airport in Tennessee after baggage was sprayed with rust.
Turns out the government had been taking them seriously all along.
This is Deep Thought Weird News with Michael Zuberev plus Sludge.
Okay, I got two choices for you. It's up to you. These are your choices. You get to pick one weird news. Your choices are tiddlywinks or turtles. Tiddlywinks or turtles.
Wow. Real Sophie's choice, this one. What's a tiddlywink?
That's part of the...
Is that a Teletubby?
That's part of the... No, that's Tinky Winky. That's part of the... Part of the choice here is do you want to know what a tiddlywink is? Isn't that interesting? Oh, isn't it fun to learn new things? Or the ever reliable turtles. Turtles are cool.
Isn't the tiddlywink like a straight man that you turn gay or something? It's like a sex thing.
This feels like a sex thing, but again, you might have
Let's
to.
go. Let's.
You might have to commit to find out.
All right. Tiddlywink me.
Okay, you're not allowed to say that to another grown man. Okay, weird news. This is a bit of local weird news. I've got a fresh bit of local weird news straight off the mountainside here. You ready for this?
Yep.
I don't know why I
Ready?
said mountainside, so it's not actually mountain relevant. Here's the title from the esteemed publication in New Zealand, Stuff. Stuff.co.nz. We've got a Stuff headline here.
Sounds legit.
Tiddlywink stuck up Christchurch woman's nose for 37 years.
No idea what this means.
For most of her life, hospital kitchen worker Mary McCarthy often had a pain on the right side of her nose. Last year, after an extremely painful COVID-19 test, her nasal problems deteriorated. That's poor phrasing because the problem deteriorating, it sounds like it's making it better, but it seems to have got worse. The reason became obvious on Thursday when a surgeon at Christchurch Hospital extracted a yellow tiddlywinks piece 37 years after it was lodged in her upper nose as a child. The surgeon also removed calcified material that had grown around the counter. So, tiddlywinks, which were developed in the 1860s in England, are played with sets of small discs called winks. Players use a squidger to shoot a wink into flight and into a pot for points. So it's this kid's game where you'd shoot little discs using a widger and ping it into a pot. And she was playing... I'm
Googling tiddlywinks right
Google
now.
tiddlywinks.
I have to...
McCarthy said she remembered playing tiddlywinks with her 7 brothers and sisters, and as an 8-year-old, took the game on a tangent by putting one piece up each nostril and blowing them out to see how they'd go.
Raising mistakes, I get it.
One time, I accidentally inhaled one instead of blowing it out, and I was a bit too scared to tell my mother, so I didn't. I remember being terrified at the time, thinking, where has it gone? But not one to complain. She put the accident at the back of her mind and carried on with life. I always had difficulties breathing through my nose over the years, but never gave it much thought. Last year, the problem took a turn for the worse. After the nasal swab, she was in pain for days and started developing serious sinus problems. My nose would be leaking constantly, and I was just in a lot of pain. She went to several general practitioners who put the nose down to chronic sinus condition. And then finally, she booked an appointment with a private doctor and went to go see an ENT in August. And then they did a CT scan and discovered the calcified object in her nasal cavity, put her under, and extracted it through her mouth. So this woman had a kid's toy in her nose for 37 years, and it had calcified in her sinuses.
What does calcified mean?
I think just become covered in like a...
forget it.
Okay.
I don't want to know. I sympathize with this. I sympathize with this because I also used to shove things up my nose and other places as a child.
Explains a lot.
And thank you. And I also didn't want to tell my parents that I had done horrendous things. So I really feel for this woman. And I feel like it could have been me.
What did you put up your nose? Or other places?
Literally anything. What? Lollies. I remember I used to do lollies, like milk bottles. I would just shove them so far up my nose.
Wow.
What else? Definitely done a game piece or two. You know, my sister's fingers.
Oh, yeah.
You know, things like that.
Dominoes.
Kind of classic stuff. The pizza.
Marbles?
I was a big marbles guy. Big marbles guy back in the day.
Marbles was
a
a mad fad in the 90s.
Oh, and you were playing for keepsies as well. Do you ever play for keepsies?
Yeah. I remember going to the Imagine If, the toy store in Unley Shopping Centre, and buying bags of marbles, and then they banned them at school because people were like getting upset when they lost or throwing them at people and hurting each other.
Yeah, I remember the feeling of losing a marble, and I think it was my first. I think that's why I have gambling tendencies now, because it was I remember the thrill, or maybe I was just a gambler from birth.
Yeah.
But I remember the thrill of getting a marble, but also the feeling of devastation when I lost one. And similarly with, by the way, Imagine If, that's where I bought my first brain yo-yo.
Oh.
That only one.
Yeah.
Do you remember the brain yo-yo?
Was that the one that had the image of a brain on the side?
Yeah.
Was that where you brought your first Diablo as well?
I was never a Diablo guy.
Oh, I really pegged you as a Diablo guy. Not because you were good at it, but because you really thought it would be cool and you wanted to be good at it.
I did definitely want to be cool, but
Yeah.
I did it in other ways.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
But what I was going to say, about the high stakes of childhood games. I remember I had Pokemon cards, which I'm sure you did as well, and I had like a really good card. Maybe it was like a really rare card,
like a holographic or like a Charizard or something. Yeah.
Was that the top one that you could get? It was one. I think it was a Charizard, unless there was like a higher one that you could get. It was like really, anyway. And I made this deal with this other kid called Jordan, who is also Ukrainian, not relevant to the story at all.
And
but
just a little bit of flavor on the side.
I traded him like one Charizard for like 2 lesser cards, and I was like, yeah, let's make this deal. And then as soon as I did it, I realized that it was the worst deal of all time. And I started to cry, and my dad came in, and my dad was with his dad at the time. Oh, the Ukrainian thing came back because they're Ukrainian,
There you go,
and
you
Ukrainian
tied it
guys just hang out. And he said, "What's happened here?" And I said, "Dad, I'm devastated. I just lost my Charizard in an incredibly bad deal." And my dad was like, "Well, this is a lesson that you will learn." And Jordan's dad was like, "No, Jordan, give him back the card." And my dad was like, "No, he does not get his Charizard back. He needs to learn." And I did need to learn. I respect that parenting, but yeah.
Can I add a coda to that story?
Please do.
25 years later, please click the link that I'm posting in the Facebook chat as we go, and just react live as you open it up.
Oh no! Are you joking?
100% true. What have I just sent you?
Nick's just sent me a eBay listing for a Charizard hologram card that is now going for $800.
Yeah, those original series Pokemon cards, very expensive. Very expensive.
What are people doing? Why is it expensive?
Oh, look at this
Silly.
one here. How about we look at this one? Oh, look at this. Oh,
This is bringing back some memories.
very expensive.
It's a bit silly. I guess all art is silly, isn't it? It's like, why is one art thing worth like millions of dollars? It's like, it's not worth millions of dollars. It's just silly games that we're playing as humans. Oh, is this another one?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm not gonna like this. Charizard Holo Pokemon card, 1999, unlimited base set, $1,275 AU. Fuck me.
Oh, sorry. I just saw another one. I could have sent you a better one. $2,100.
Oh god.
So, hope Jordan's kept it.
I bet he has. I bet he's had it. I looked him up on Facebook the other day. He looks like a classic Russian guy. He's got that kind of short haircut, like shaved haircut at the back, and then like long on the front. You know, that classic Russian guy haircut. And he's in the club with like two. Can you say skanky hoes these days? With scantily clad honeys. Oh god, that was bad.
Ladies.
Yeah, so
Can
I
you,
bet he has. I
can you
bet
message him,
he's
please?
living it up in the club with my fucking Charizard money.
Can you message him right now, please?
No,
Can you just
dude.
can you just add him as a friend and ask him out of the blue? Hey mate, do you still have my Charizard?
Oh my god. Oh, we're already friends.
Great,
don't wanna
perfect.
do this.
Just send him a message.
Should I?
Yeah, just send him a message. Hey man, do you still have the Charizard I let you?
All right, I'll do it. Oh fuck, I hate this. Hey man, do you still have my Charizard? My Charizard.
Pokemon card.
Should I just say my Charizard?
Hey man, do you still have my Charizard? Question mark. Send.
Okay.
How long has it been since you've spoken to him?
I've never spoken to him since. I don't think I've spoken to him since.
25 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have been 12.
20 years.
20 years.
Wow.
All right, well, good conversation starter, that one.
Yeah. I think that we are either going to do you a service by getting you a potentially valuable Charizard back, or finding a friend that you can delete off your Facebook friends.
Well, yeah, I think
I know you like to do it on their
definitely going to be
birthdays.
the latter. It's definitely going to be a unfriending immediately kind of situation. On his part, probably first. Because he knows what he's done.
Yeah, well, because he's onto me.
Yeah,
Come on,
exactly.
honeys, get in the jet.
Come on, honeys. You could never be a straight man, you know that?
Yeah, I've tried. Yeah.
Fun times.